Today I'm going to talk to you about our Unit 1 assignments and how to walk through those and what I'm expecting from those. I've got some lists on the board and I'll kind of point those out as we go along. But anyway, this is for English 002, Transition English. And our first unit is college reading and writing. And we've already done some work in that area with walking through the conventions and things that your teachers already think you know, looking at a few different websites to see where we can get some help. But this is the first real assignment, and I want to walk you through kind of the stages of the assignments on our website, on our Blackboard page, and then tell you a little bit more about what we want to expect. You should have printed or have up on another screen somehow the Unit 1 writing assignment sheet. You can find that in a bunch of different places on the Blackboard page in week 1, actually in week 2, and in the Unit 1 and in a whole bunch of other places. But anyway, get one copy, move on. Anyway, Unit 1, I want to look at what we're going to be reading, the assignment we're going to be doing, and the assessment. I want to remind you that you have some companion videos to watch as well. One is responding to professional articles. It helps you kind of see the sense in some of the things that you're going to read. This one is The Penny Debate by Brad Andrews is one of those things that is kind of a news blurb opinion piece. And so it's not as detailed as, say, your 20-page article from a technical journal. So don't be too worried. The other things, remind yourself of the writing conventions everyone should know, and make sure that you're following the directions. Things like title capitalization, how to quote, when to quote, how to punctuate quotes. There are things up in the writing helps section that you can kind of just go through and look at. If you know you have a problem with homophones, homonyms, things that sound the same but are spelled differently, there's a little bit of work on that. There's some different pieces up there for commas and things like that too. But these are the ones that are specific to this particular section, this particular unit. Drafting and revising is also kind of here's how we walk through producing a paper. And I want to give you that up there pretty early on, so it's in for this unit. Walk through, watch them, take some notes. Whatever helps you internalize the information, that's what you should do. And I'm going to walk through kind of the steps here. This won't be too long, so hopefully you'll hang in there with me. The first thing when we go to read an assignment is that we need to somehow, in my mind, you have to mark it up. You have to either take some notes or write some notes on it, circle some things, do some highlighting, whatever works for you. I tend to use color. It doesn't usually mean anything, but I like to brighten up my page, write some notes. My favorite thing to use for books and articles and stuff are colored pencils, because I can change colors, either by topic or by whatever, or just so I know, oh, this is a new layer. For some things I read fairly often. Go back and look at things and go, oh, okay, so this is important to me this time. So today's color is pink. The last time I read this, my color was green, so I can kind of differentiate another run through. But for this particular article, what you need to do is to use your system, if you have one, or go look at the critical reading stuff that's up on the writing helps and see if that system wouldn't work for you as well, or better. If you don't have a system at all, whatever you're going to do is going to be better for you than just passively sitting there looking at the page. Okay. The more senses you can get involved in learning something and reading something, the more you're going to remember it. There's some way ridiculous number of like 75 times you have to be approached with or whatever with that particular information in order for it to be permanent. I don't think the number's quite that high, but more than once anyway. And so if you're annotating the text, if you've got a printout, or you've got a book, or whatever, writing on it physically gets another part of your brain working with it, as opposed to just reading it. If you're online and you want to work with things, um, copy and paste it out into a Word document. This is for whatever you're reading. Excuse me. And then you can use the highlighter, the change the text color, underline, italicize, bold, whatever. You can play with it a lot. Just don't make the playing with it the point. The point is to internalize or to make that particular piece of knowledge your own. And so for this one, make sure that you're kind of identifying where the oppositions are. Maybe you think we should keep the penny, okay? So that's one thing you mark. I tend to use one color and then use different symbols to outline different things. And so if I'm going to agree with, I think we should keep the penny, I'm going to mark all of his points and his examples with a particular star or whatever. And then the things that I don't agree with, I don't want to get rid of the penny. And so any place that gives that as a positive, getting rid of the penny is their side of it, then I'm going to mark it with a different symbol. Sometimes I'm real transparent and I use smiley faces and frowny faces, but a lot of times it's just 1s, 2s, and 3s. Okay, so I'm going to look at how many points, how many examples, what he's using there, and then where do you resonate? Okay, write yourself some notes in the margin. If you're highlighting and such, you can always add in text. I tend to change the color and italicize the stuff that I add in, so I'm not confused about whose idea this is to begin with. But when you're done with that, make sure you save it as. Don't just hit save, because then that overwrites a lot of things that you don't want to overwrite. And if you have it save as, that way it's on your computer and you can pull it up and work on it again, or look at what you thought before and everything's good. But if you click on the save as in Word, that's over to on file, and then they'll have a little menu drop down, save as, and then change the title. Okay, make it, okay, if it's in there as penny, then it's penny notes, and maybe it's today's date, or penny notes, whatever. But change the name of the file, and that will keep it for you on your computer, okay, on your whatever. We have a couple different ways we can respond to any text. The two that are most ready, intellectually, what do you think about it? Okay, does the argument make sense? Did they convince you with evidence? Did they have a good tone? All of those kinds of critical intellectual responses. And then there's also the emotional response. How do you particularly identify or connect to this particular topic? And sometimes that's a stretch, because what English teachers pick isn't always what my students want to read. And so maybe you have to stretch your ideas a little bit to make a personal connection. And that's the emotionally part. I don't have a big, strong emotional connection to pennies, but I know folks who do. I have a dear friend whose dad passed away when she was quite young, and I think it was her grandmother who told her every time she sees a penny, that's a sign that her dad is watching out for her. Now, she's, in her 50s now, but still, there's an emotional connection to finding a penny that she finds very much comforting. She doesn't want us to stop using pennies. Then, there's that whole emotional side to things. Whatever connection you have, maybe, you are for getting rid of the penny. You want us to delete the penny. And because, okay, it takes up too much space, it's, it costs too much to make. Nobody likes pennies, really. I mean, they find their way to all kinds of weird little things. And so you have, this intellectual connection, but there's still that little bit of, okay, it's a waste of resources, and that's something that I'm very passionate about. I don't want us to waste our resources. Okay, so there's your connection. And you have to do both for this particular paper. And paper is kind of stretching it a little bit. It's a paragraph, okay? I want to see you write a good, solid, tight paragraph. I'm going to explain what I mean by all those things. Good means somebody else can read it and understand your argument, understand where you're going with everything without having to back up and try again. Okay, so this is about content and presentation. It's a good paragraph. Okay, solid. Okay, this is, I have all of my ideas in the right order. I have used proper punctuation and grammar, and I'm making a point. I'm not just saying all this fluff out here and move on. Okay, this is not write 7 sentences and you're done. Okay, this is, okay, I want a coherent, solid paragraph. The last bit is I want to make sure you have all 3 of these pieces in your paragraph. Now, what's fun or useful, maybe both, about the NROC system is the very first draft that you're going to write is going to be kind of a fill in the blanks. Okay, each piece is going to have a title, okay, and it's going to have a little prompt. Okay, so the first piece is your introductory sentence. Okay, and your introductory sentence in this case has to include both the author's name and the title of the article. Okay, Brad Andrews wrote The Penny Debate. Now, you should also in there somewhere, maybe not in the very first sentence, maybe in the very second sentence, say something about, okay, he wrote The Penny Debate about whether or not the United States should keep or delete the penny coin. Okay, something along those lines. Great first line. Okay, you need to have one main idea. Okay, and so your second, maybe your third sentence should be something about what you think we should do about the penny. I think we should keep the penny because it has such a great depth of nostalgia for many people. Okay, that's good. We should keep or not the penny because, and then you have to have a reason. Okay, that's your main idea. Everything else that comes in afterwards should be some sort of support or example, explanation, your own personal connection, 3 or 4 sentences in there that are supporting sentences. Okay, they're not your main sentence. You've already told us what you want, what you think. Now you're going to explain to us why. You're going to try to convince us that we should think this way too. Okay, so maybe it's 5 or 6 sentences. I don't know. Depends on how long it takes you to do it. The very last sentence, no matter how much you've got in here, the very last sentence should wrap it up. Should remind us. So we should keep the penny because of its heavy, high depth of nostalgia. And I think you should want to keep the penny as well. Okay, so something that reminds us of what you're telling, and then something that you would like for us to do. Okay, so not too hard, but this particular assignment is all about staying focused. Okay, most of us have a hard time with that. Okay, especially these days. But most of us have a hard time with that. We have lots of things we want to talk about, or we don't have anything to talk about. And so staying focused on one main idea, keep or delete, it's a very good thing. Now, if you want to add to the sophistication of your paragraph, before you tell us what to do, you could show us what other people think, the other side. Okay, some may think that nostalgia is not a good enough reason. They think we should get rid of the penny because it costs too much money, takes up too much space. Okay, but I think we should keep the penny because of its nostalgia, and I think you should believe that too. You don't have to do the other people think, but that's a good way to put in a paragraph that shows sophistication in your writing and in your ability to control ideas, okay, on the page. Okay, so these are your requirements. You can add this little piece here about the other side, but you don't have to. Okay, you can get your 80%, maybe even more than that, without that. But give it a shot, see what happens. I want to walk through a couple other things here about the assignment for this unit and the assessment a little bit so that we can make sure we're on the right page. remember we have a certain process that we have to go through. And the way this class is set up, you need to be focused on what you're supposed to do for each step, do that step, and then move on, okay? Don't be the popcorn, okay? Layer cake. For in the NROC section, okay, so you're going to go and click here to start Unit 1, and you're going to walk through in NROC from the introduction of Unit 1 through Step 5, which is the review. Okay, review is a little quiz. If you don't get at least an 80% on that the first time you take it, try again, okay? I'd like to see a little bit more of mastery in that before you go into the Writing Center. It's very helpful. And then the Writing Center is really set up for 3 attempts to make the perfect paragraph in this case, okay? The first one is kind of a fill-in. They're going to ask you, there's going to be a space for you to write your introduction, your introductory sentence, okay? You know it needs to have the title and the author's name at the very least, okay? And then it's going to ask you for your thesis sentence or your topic sentence. This is your one main idea. Should we keep the penny or should we not? And then it's going to ask for supporting ideas. That's where you put all of these other pieces in here, okay? What's your examples, what's your connection, what about the other side? All of that goes in those supporting ideas, supporting sentences. And then a concluding sentence, okay? So there's a box for each one of these sets, okay? Be as complete as you possibly can. Okay, I'm hoping that you will actually write the bulk of your paper, the bulk of your paragraph in this first set, because then all you have to do is play with it, make it pretty. Okay, you're going to post that, hit enter at the end, submit, and then I'll get a blip and I'll go in and review it. Okay, it might not be the same day that you post it, depends upon when I do my coursework that day. I tend to be a morning person, so if you're not, keep that in mind. It might be tomorrow morning before I get to it, but that's okay. You're going to wait for my review, and then you're going to write a little reflection. How are you going to use my review to make your paper better? Okay, I think I have 3 questions in there for you to answer, but that's on Blackboard. Okay, so the next time when you go in through Blackboard like always, but then go down in the unit page, or the week page. I haven't decided how I'm going to do this yet. I didn't like the unit pages, but I might have to keep it that way. Anyway, go down to reflection, do that, post it, and then go in and do your rough draft 2. Okay, this is a real paragraph. It's going to ask you to take those pieces that you've already written and put them into paragraph form and then post that. Okay, so I'll send you an email. My review is an email, and I will tell you, yes, you're on the right track. I want to see a little more detail here, or I want you to stay focused on one idea. Either do nostalgia or do money saving. Don't do both, just one thing, okay? And then wait for my review again. While you're waiting for my review on the rough draft 2, go ahead and do the unit assignment. It's on Blackboard, it's down towards the bottom. You get 2 tries, do one, see how it goes. It's not going to give you a grade right away because I have to go in and touch it. I have to grade anything, but I have to go and touch it. And then it needs to be an 80% or better. Okay, most folks don't have any trouble with the content questions. It's the which one of these is correct when we're looking at commas and apostrophes and that kind of stuff. So take your time, and when in doubt, look it up. Okay, go to the Purdue OWL and see what that rule is for the apostrophes. Okay, it's not cheating. So, Unit 1 assessment on Blackboard, you get 2 tries. You have to get 80% or better. If you do 2 tries and you don't get 80% or better, I will clear one of them so you can go back in and retake it. But don't get too far ahead of yourself on this and waste your 2 tries off the bat. Okay? Go in, read what you're supposed to read, look at what you're supposed to look at. The foundational assignments at the very beginning of things is all about commas and punctuation and that kind of stuff. Walk back through those, okay? Have that fresh in your head when you go into the assessment. And then once you have my review of rough draft 2, which is another email, it'll say, in this case, it'll say Penny RD2 notes. You go in there and I'll have a copy of your paper with my comments on it. When you open it back up, my comments will read down the right side and your paper will be on the left side, and you can see where I would like for you to make some changes or additions or corrections. Go through and do that, add whatever else you need to add, and then save it as something else so you have both, and then you're going to copy and paste that back in for your final draft. Okay, this is back in NROC. See, it's under NROC. And you need to get an 80% or better on the final draft and an 80% or better on the assessment, and then you can move on to the next unit. So I hope that's helped a little bit. Remember, you have some other videos you can watch about responding, about conventions, about drafting and revising that you're going to look at for this unit. But if you have questions about this video or about the assignment itself, email me. The other thing about this assignment is you have a rubric on the second page, response paragraph. And this is just the different pieces of your particular paper. Okay, so your introductory sentence, your topic sentence, supporting ideas, and concluding sentence. Okay, and then the hated one, grammar and punctuation. Okay, remember when I was talking to you in our introduction video, I mentioned the fact that we have to be more careful with writing because we don't have hand gestures and facial expression and tone, our tone of voice, to help us in that kind of committing to information. And the other person isn't sitting there next to us or across from us so they can ask us questions. So we have to be more careful in our writing than we do in our speech. And so punctuation, grammar, sentence structure, all of that helps. And you've all read things that you read through once and thought it said one thing, and then when you read it the second time, you're like, oh, that was totally wrong. Don't make that kind of mistake, okay? Make sure that you're spending a little bit of time on these. Make sure that you're doing some good work. Don't just dash it off and turn it in. Dash it off, that's fine. Go back and read through it. Read it out loud. Read it out loud. Read it out loud. On Word, there is on the review tab, you can have Word read it to you. Now, it's a computer voice, but sometimes that's helpful because it's so flat that you have to have the pauses and things in there with punctuation, or it sounds like you're a lunatic. So have it read to you or read it out loud yourself, and make sure that it says what you think it says. That's the best tip I can give anybody for writing anything, whether it's your email, even text. Read it out loud before you send it. That'll help when you have the totally wrong word in there, or you missed the not, and somebody's going to be totally confused or upset because you said one thing but you meant this other thing. Okay, so be careful. Give your work your best ability, your best time. Do your work with integrity, and it'll all be good. Okay, so again, if you have questions, send me an email. Bye.